And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Bill Maher is out here dismantling woke narratives as if it's his full-time profession, and his latest target is none other than Whoopi Goldberg. Let's be honest, the actress practically invited this, considering her growing collection of embarrassing remarks since 2022. Maher didn't just offer criticism. He systematically tore her apart piece by piece in a rebuttal, so intense it left Whoopi looking for an exit, like a cartoon character, avoiding a falling piano. So what did Goldberg actually say this time to trigger Maher's raw honesty? And how did his response manage to leave the woke crowd so shaken? Don't worry, we have all the spicy details right here. Strap in, everyone, this isn't just a rough trip. It's a high-speed coaster with no safety bars.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Goldberg has poked the bear, and now she's facing the sharp claws of harsh reality. And believe me, it's a mess. Remember our previous video where Bill Maher roasted Sunny Hot for trying to trick him by putting words in his mouth? Well, it turns out the View team isn't going away quietly. This time, Whoopi Goldberg is stepping up, seemingly on a mission of vengeance to get even. It looks like Sunny couldn't handle the pressure Maher applied, so she brought in the heavy hitters, Whoopi Goldberg herself. And man, did she come in swinging, ready for a fight like a contestant in a reality TV show that nobody actually wanted.
And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class? I mean,
Typical Whoopi Goldberg, flipping through the woke playbook as if it's her ultimate guide. When your logic is failing faster than a lead balloon, just create a straw man and start swinging. Bill Maher was making a straightforward point about black Americans wanting better career opportunities, a solid economy, and sensible law enforcement. Simple enough, right? But here comes Whoopi, rambling about voting for a former prosecutor with a strategy for the working class. Does that actually connect? Not at all. Do you see any actual logic? Of course not, because there isn't any. It's as if she's throwing darts while blindfolded, desperately hoping one hits the board. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. And Bill Maher certainly wasn't about to let it slide.
Let's tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no. It's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
Maher didn't hold back at all. He highlighted that Whoopi's points are likely nonsensical, which is pretty standard for The View. That show has turned into the political equivalent of a massive wreck painful to observe. Yet somehow you can't stop watching. Sure, it's famous for its divisive and frankly suspicious takes on almost everything. But Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg have managed to take the chaos to a whole new level with their completely wild commentary. Remember when Charlemagne Thagard took the risk of being a guest? You could practically see him questioning if he had accidentally wandered into some kind of bizarre alternate dimension.
The criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time and, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now.
Is the context. President Joe Biden, the man who claims to be the defender of the idea that no one is above the law, just gave a pardon to his son, Hunter Biden, after surprise. He was found guilty of corruption and other related crimes. Talk about family values, right? This decision has sparked a predictable wave of backlash. After all, how do you defend the "no one is above the law" mantra when your own son gets a free pass? It's almost like saying justice is totally blind. Unless your last name is Biden, Hunter's guilt was as obvious as a kid caught with chocolate all over his face. Yet somehow, accountability never made it onto the family's schedule. That was Charlemagne's point. If the woke crowd claims no one was above the law, they should follow their own rules. Simple, right? Well, Whoopi had other ideas.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You
his
really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a
No,
sudden?
I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
Watching Whoopi tell such a blatant falsehood is like watching someone confidently claim the sky is green while standing under a bright blue morning. At this stage, Whoopi's mental acrobatics could earn her a gold medal, but even then, she'd likely stumble over her own reasoning. You could actually see the disbelief on Charlemagne's face at Whoopi's claims, but she didn't stop there. She even suggested it was possible. Biden changed his mind simply because he was tired of watching everyone else take advantage of him. Charlemagne was left completely speechless by the sheer absurdity of the statement.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law.
The problem with the woke crowd is that they only point out wrongdoings. When the person involved isn't in their exclusive little circle, but when the guilty person is one of their own, suddenly the moral outrage disappears into a quiet defense or a convenient case of collective memory loss. Of course, Whoopi and her group got away with their antics because it was Charlemagne on the set. But when Bill Maher heard about their behavior, he stepped up and delivered one of the most effective verbal takedowns we've heard in quite a while.
So I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that
They're
go out there and they stand on this moral high ground. They don't have to do that.
The mob loves to portray themselves as the ultimate voices of truth and morality, but their double standards were exposed for everyone to see this time. Hunter Biden was guilty, plain and simple. But because his father happens to occupy the Oval Office, he gets to walk away without even a minor penalty. If this were anyone else, that same mob would be demanding their head on a platter. But when it's one of their own, suddenly justice is ignored in favor of blatant favoritism. It is hypocrisy at its peak, and Maher was right to call it what it is, a total joke. The real question is how much longer the American public will tolerate this dishonest behavior. It's not just about Hunter. It's about a system that bends for the powerful while being harsh on everyone else. Maher's critique wasn't just on time. It was a wake-up call for anyone still believing in the myth of total fairness. But here's where it gets interesting. Maher suggested the woke mob often had help from the media.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit.
The media went to great lengths to minimize the Hunter Biden situation, working extra hours to protect President Biden and undermine Trump's campaign. Major outlets dismissed the story as foreign interference despite the growing evidence. While silencing anyone who disagreed, Whoopi Goldberg happily joined in, laughing off the seriousness of the claims on The View. But Maher wasn't having it. He called her out for playing defense instead of looking for the truth, breaking down her excuses and showing the obvious hypocrisy for everyone to see.
Was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course, you don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
That's exactly right. The women of The View, especially Whoopi Goldberg, aren't just woke. They act like a pack of sharks circling, ready to attack anyone who doesn't follow their specific ideology. Their version of debate isn't about finding the truth or having a discussion. It's about shutting down disagreement and forcing their worldview with insults and sarcasm. Whoopi, in particular, has become a master at dismissing other voices with a wave of her hand, as if different opinions are beneath her. Maher, however, wasn't intimidated, exposing their methods for what they really are. Bullying labeled as activism, It's no wonder he has become such a problem for them, constantly highlighting their double standards for an audience tired of one-sided stories. Maher's responses feel like a breath of fresh air in a room full of tired, stale arguments.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
Argues that the woke crowd needs to stop being shocked over Trump's victory and start dealing with reality. He didn't steal the win or use magic to get it. He won fairly because millions of Americans liked his message. No matter how much it makes the progressives uncomfortable, instead of blaming foreign countries, prejudice, or whatever excuse is popular on social media this week, maybe it's time to accept that, in a democracy, sometimes the other side wins. It's not a system failure. It's the system working exactly as it should. The sooner they stop acting like victims and start thinking like strategists, the better chance they'll have in future elections.
Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. But a poll last year asked if America is the greatest country in the world. More blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them. Black people, they're just like us.
Bill Maher hits the mark once. Again, not everyone who voted for Trump is attending massive rallies or worshiping him. A huge number of them simply cast their vote because they were exhausted by the self-righteous lectures from Democrats and the woke crowd's increasingly illogical agenda. Let's be real, when you're supporting biological men dominating women's sports or holding events that look very sympathetic to groups like Hamas, you're going to alienate a large part of the voters. People didn't choose Trump because they loved his personality or his tan. They did it because the alternative felt like being lectured by a self-righteous person at a party. If the left wants to win, it's time to stop pushing away the middle by chasing every extreme idea and start focusing on what makes sense to the average American.
I said there's a coalition of Trump voters, people who really like him. They certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common sense.
It's absolute comedy. Bill Maher didn't just put the final touch on Whoopi Goldberg's reputation. He practically designed the whole thing while laughing at how ridiculous it all was. Whoopi, the self-titled leader of the woke movement, decided to take a shot at Maher for having his own thoughts. Huge mistake. Maher's response was classic Bill, sharp, unapologetic, and incredibly funny. He pointed out the irony of a co-host on the View, a show that claims to be a place for diverse views, attacking him for having a view she didn't like. It's quite ironic, isn't it? A group that constantly demands tolerance seems to think the word only applies to their own opinions. Maher, as always, wouldn't stand for it. He exposed the hypocrisy of the woke echo chamber that Whoopi and her team live in, where independent thought is replaced by group loyalty and disagreement is treated like a crime. Watching Maher break down their weak arguments was like watching a master at work using only wit and logic.
Finally, new rule, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Absolutely, it's pure comedic brilliance. Bill Maher didn't just finish the job, he practically constructed the entire stage while mocking the sheer madness of the situation.